if you're feeling down, depressed, and lonely, well, here I am. I'm gonna give you a fucking other feeling of rage. I'm gonna rile you up tonight with my dog shit Goosebumps takes. Yes, everybody, today I'm sharing my Goosebumps Hot Takes. Finally, these are opinions that are very unpopular and might rile some people up. Like, what the fuck? Dude, get off that heroin. I know you snort it every time you take a cut in the video. And yes, I might have just snorted a little bit of heroin. Maybe that's why I think the way I do for some of these books. But let me tell you, there's some Goosebumps books and episodes. We're bringing up 2 episodes and 7 books. But I think are overrated or maybe underrated. In other words, I have a complete opposite opinion about what the general status is for their place in the community. Starting off with, jumping right into this, Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid. I love this book. Strong word. I really like this book, and I think it's great, but not love. I used to think it was, borderline one of the most amazing Goosebumps books, but I've had second thoughts. I've went back and said, okay, maybe the starting point of the book isn't the greatest. Which is a weird thing to say because a lot of people think that one's fine. The real meat of this story that people hate is the climax. And let me tell you, I actually was for that. I think the climax, as strange and weird as it is, it's a very experimental idea that's run and error. Basically, a story and a story and a story. Not spoiling too much about, besides basically everything. Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid is just fucking bonkers in the final, third of the book. But everything else leading up to that is like, this is really good. It's a really good story about nonsense in a card game. But I like it. You know what I'm saying? There's lots of great scenes in this book and lots of great moments, and I think this book gets shit on for being a Jumanji clone, and of course the final 10 chapters, but I was really for. I really like those closing chapters or the final third of the book. Yeah, hot take. But here's a bigger one. I think this one's overrated. Holy shit! Did you just nut yourself? Well, I don't, because I don't think this one's very good. It's still decent, at best, but I wouldn't recommend this one. That already tells you something. I am not a big fan, or relatively even like a stan or kind of fan of this book. Yeah, the first half of this book is a living dummy clone. I'm not even kidding. And the second half is some science fiction nonsense that I wasn't a fan of. And I love that genre. Yeah, but I wasn't for this. It took a very bizarre turn and it didn't resolve things or do things very well. Yeah, and a lot of people really like this. Maybe it's because it's robot, spooky, I don't know. But I wasn't a fan of it personally. Moving on, we have another Series 1000. We're going to see a few more after this. Return to Ghost Camp. Now, a lot of people really don't like this book for one sole reason, and I think that is literally the only reason because I cannot see how you dislike this book, other than the fact that it's not a sequel to Ghost Camp, which, on its own, Ghost Camp is overrated. Yeah, I don't like it as much as people do. I think it's got a weak first half. But Return to Ghost Camp is strong all the way through with a banger opening, very creepy dream sequence, and generally a lot of great stuff throughout this book. All derived from one fear of the Snatcher and just the climax. Oh, it's great. This book, if you can get past that it's not a Ghost Camp sequel, which I can, personally. I wasn't even a big fan of that book. I thought it was just about average, or slightly above average. This book is way above average. It's one of the best, or one of the higher ranking Series 2000 books. I really like Return to Ghost Camp. I think it gets way too much hate, and if you hate this book for it not being a Ghost Camp sequel, please reread it, with all due respect. And if you dislike it, fine. Just go into it without being like, ooh, not Ghost Camp sequel. I'm not a fan of this one. Yeah. Moving on, we have another Slappy rule. Ghost of Slappy. This one's not a huge hot take, but a lot of the younger folk community really like this, and I'm sure there's people out there like, I really like Ghost of Slappy. I don't. I almost did, though. I think the first half of this book is actually some really good Goosebumps. Yeah. Really good. And then, the steaming pile of poo-poo that the second half is. It's underwhelming for being the Ghost of Slappy. He's just Slappy, but he can fly. Which really doesn't change much about the story, honestly. Slappy but he can fly, and he could be more convenient to show up. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, who cares? And let alone the ending completely takes a shit on the message and theme of the story. Yeah. Underwhelming and disappointing and relatively not very good thanks to the second half. This could have been an A tier, A plus tier, almost S tier story if it just didn't lose that greatness the first half had. I mean, it's a fucking slappy camp story for a portion of it. Hell yeah. And then you drop that. Which isn't bad. You can drop it. It's just like, damn, we had it going good. Unlike this book from the get-go where it wasn't, but I still really liked it at the end of the day, that's way pushing it. I still enjoyed it. I think it's about like a 7 out of 10, 6.5. Revenge of Us. This book gets shit on for actually justified reasons. And I'll be saying it right now. I get it. You know, I can't hate on you if you think this book is dog shit. I really get it. I'm just one of those people who are like, you know what? Pervert? I don't like this book. I don't like this book because it's a pervert. It's dog shit. No, I looked past that and I saw the story and went, well, that's actually not bad if you exclude the weird shit that happens for about 2 pages worth of the story, or maybe a little bit more, maybe 3. There's some scenes involving maybe a diary, maybe taking pictures of a girl in her underwear and her sleep drooling, which is already just strange to say out loud, but it's in the story. And, Monday panties. I'm just going to keep that vague, but if you read the first chapter, you'll know what I mean. Yeah, in the first chapter, you can get a pretty bad taste in your mouth. But, past that, this is actually a better done Be Careful with Witchmore. I liked it. Not enough to recommend it much, though, but it was still like, it's decent, but, not without its flaws. The really bad flaws. But yeah, this next book. This one is hated by the very few people who have read it, and it is Tale 6. And I'm not one of those people who hate this one. I think it has a ratio of 8 to 2 good endings from my memory. Might be 7 to 3. But I know 2 at the top of my head I didn't like are ones people really like. Marshmallow Surprise and Why I Hate Jack Frost. I don't like those 2. Jack Frost I might come around on. I'm planning to reread it this winter. Either way, Jack Frost, it's a shitty Freddy Krueger knockoff. Yeah. It's slappy in Dreamland, but it's less good. I don't remember that book's good, and I have to reread it soon. And the other story, Marshmallow Surprise, is literally Goblin's Glare, but horribly wrong. Like, just done horribly. Goblin's Glare is one of my favorite stories, by the way, from the Tales series. It's just a shitty version of that. No hinting at all towards that end. And it's just like a wet fart and already mediocre story, so it's like... Oh, yeah, too much Taco Bell. But overall, now going back to the story, already had hot takes of a few stories. The overall book, I actually rated as my 3rd favorite. Give yourself, fuck, I'm high. Tales of the Goosebumps story. And people say it's the worst, which shocks me. When there's Tales 1, which is already actually way overrated. Though I'm seeing more hate on it nowadays, because half the stories in that book are not very good. I just looked at it, by the way. Tales 3 is overrated. A lot of stories in there are middling. And Tales 5 is actually not that bad. But yeah, either way, not about Tales anymore. Let's get back to the meat with the final book. Holy shit, I'm gonna piss some of you off. Now, I'm bringing up Slappy's Nightmare, and you already know the status of this book. It's viewed as a legendary, great piece of media that is honestly one of the best books of all time. Now, my friend, I'm just going to shout him out right now, the Goose Block, previously known as Goosebumps Enthusiast and still kind of known as, watch the channel, it makes good shit. He read this book a while back, and he said, this isn't very good. And I thought he was smoking heroin. If you can even smoke that, I think you inject it. Don't try it at home. I was almost in shock, because I, at the time, really liked this book still. I thought it was a great book. I reread it in August last year. August 2024, let's cut back. And I went into it going, I still think this will be really good. But I'll be open, and let me tell you, I'm sorry, it's not very good. Slappy's Nightmare is actually quite bad, and I've had a complete turnaround on it over the past, like, half year. Slappy's Nightmare? No, thank you. It is not very good. Yeah, this is one of my weirdest takes all day, I'll just admit it. Slappy's Nightmare, I know it's really liked, but Jesus, there's a lot of things that have hit me like a truck rereading it. The characters are bad, like really bad and unlikable. There's also no payoff to that because of the twist ending, which is horrible. Yeah. Slappy's goals are being fumbled over and over again to the point where it's really repetitive and mind-numbing, and overall, what he's doing is just, mediocre. But yeah, this book, it's really not shining. I think the first 30 pages are the best part of the book, with Jimmy O. James. That's it. This book is not very good. So yeah, let's get to episodes now, which I only have 2, starting off with a DVD I'll show. There's nothing for the second one. Say Cheese and Die. Oh boy. Alright, I'm gonna piss off some stands here, but I think this episode's overrated. Not a lot, but it's definitely overrated. I'm not a big fan of Say Cheese and Die's episode, and I've never been. I always thought it was a genuinely just average episode. Alright, I'm still a fan of it, just not a big one like a lot of people are. I probably stop fucking around fit for background noise. But yeah, Say Cheese and Die DVD, or episode, I must be high. It's very fine, decent, good, but not anything to behold, special. I think it's a run-of-the-mill Goosebumps episode. Unlike its sequel, which is amazing. I'm lying, by the way. But yeah, this episode, I think it gets a lot of glazing because Ryan Gosling is in it, and that's pretty much why. Also, obviously, great book behind it. I think it's just a fine adaptation. Nothing inherently terrible. It's just fine. Yeah. Or genuinely just decent. I think I gave it about an 8 out of 10. I'd probably give it a 7.5 nowadays, so. It's fine. It's average. But, let me tell you. There's one episode that gets so much hate, and it's not even the 90s show. It's from the 2023 show, not The Vanishing. And it is episode 10. Yeah, I'm bringing up Welcome to Horrorland, the finale to the 2023 Goosebumps series. Let me tell you, it's shocking to me. I think, well, not entirely shocking because there's one thing I'm about to bring up. I think it really gets a lot of hate just because of the fact it doesn't need to exist. It gets hate because episode 9 exists, because it didn't need to happen. But the finale itself, just as a standalone episode, and even with the whole series, well, at least this wrapped things up. And I think, on its own, really, if you look at it, it's yeah, it didn't need to exist, but it's not bad. It's not a bad episode at all. I think it's actually decent, or relatively good. It has things I like about it, but I won't ignore the flaws, obviously. The twist ending is dog shit. There's stuff in there, but it's kind of meandering and wasting time. But there's some great stuff, like Isaiah gets shot, which I thought was a cruel turn. I think the Kondu defeat was really decent. I think the idea of the twist, aside from Kondu resurrecting a certain person, is cool. Oh, that's cool, I like that. I like that. I was a fan of the intro. I think the intro was the greatest part of that episode. However, it's not amazing. But I don't think it's dog shit like everybody makes it out to be. So yeah, those are my Goosebumps hot takes. And I have plenty more where that came from. I already mentioned it, but Ghost Camp is overrated. I could bring up tons of more things like Earth Camp Cold Lake. That one's overrated. A lot of people on Reddit really like that one. How I Learned to Fly is underrated, I'd say. But overall, I think this series, the Goosebumps franchise, has a lot of things that I could talk about all day. So I'm keeping this video relatively 14-15 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and tell me about your Goosebumps hot takes down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.